Order. It's 12 o'clock on the dot. Go ahead and do our introductions, starting with Lauren down there.
Lauren Little, Chief Engineer, Alaska DOT and PF.
Larry Church, City of North Pole Mayor.
Scott Kress, area busybody, and Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly.
Jackson Fox with Fast Plan.
Cherry Clear, City of Fairbanks.
Olivia Lunsford, Fast Planning.
We have Devin there. Anyone online, please? All online?
Jason Olds, DEC Air Quality.
And anyone else online while we're there? Shy.
Yeah, I can list the guests. We have
Yeah, just
Adam,
list.
Adam Moser, Jennifer Wright, Randy Bailey, Don Galligan, Jenny Quakenbush, and Travis Nybert.
Okay. And in the room here,
Christine Langley, Data Modernization and Innovation Director, DOT.
Jack Barnwell, News Minor, under caffeinated.
Brett Nelson, DOT Planning.
okay, thank you, everybody. Need approval of the July 16th, 2025 agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for today, July 16, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Turch, seconded by Scott Presser. Is there anyone wishing to pull an item or make an agenda change? Being none, any objection to the agenda then as presented? No, you pass that 5-0. Need an item 4, approval of the June 18th.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from June 18, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Church, seconded by somebody with Grass. Anyone wishing to make changes to the meeting minutes? Seeing none, any objection to meeting minutes? Okay. That's approved 5-0. Yes, Mr. Fox is up next. Staff Working Group Chair Report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cleavers. Olivia, if you go to page 13 to our staff report. Before we get into our staff reports, I just want to make a quick announcement that I did hear back from the EPA yesterday. They have scheduled a meeting for me in Washington DC to talk about our air quality letter and potentially opening up the EPA's implementing regulations for the PM 2.5 standards. I have reached out to Baggett, Schmerkowski and Sullivan offices and got confirming emails last night that they have received that request to support me at that meeting through participation by themselves and or their staff. Today, I've also reached out to Tomaszewski, Prax and Myers offices from our interior delegation. Tomaszewski is planning to participate. This meeting is going to be August 6th. It does make it a little bit awkward with the governor's call for a special session during the same week. But the EPA has opened the door to us for individuals to participate remotely. So some of these folks will be participating remotely, but I am pulling together my participants list. And I hope to get that back to the EPA by Friday, so by the end of this week. But it is exciting news that we do have a meeting and they're willing to listen to our request. And we seem to have broad support from state legislators and our congressional delegation for the request. And I will be traveling in person to Washington DC for that meeting, and we'll see if there's other folks that will be able to join me in person or remotely. Okay, for the staff report for project and planning meetings, I want to make note that on Monday, we held our second subcommittee meeting for the Fast Improvement Program, which was focused on the bundle of projects for 2026. We had good participation at that meeting and were able to come up with a good bundle of projects that everybody at the table thought was a fair split. Everybody walked away happy. It is the amount of projects that we included is above and beyond what our current budget is for construction next summer. So what you'll see at our August technical policy board meetings is this recommendation for the bundle of projects, but also an increase to the program for construction from 1.1 million up to 2.4 million, so that we can get some additional project sites that have been identified. We have, of course, many more project nominations than what we have funding for. So the other project nominations will stand to be put into an out year into 2027 or 2028. But the focus of the action item next month again will be 2026, that bundle of projects and then the budget increase. But we do have 1.9 million in federal funds available in federal fiscal year 2026. They're not programmed to any project. So we do have funding to accommodate expanding this program next summer for sites for all of our member agencies on this board. Another note here is that I have participated in 2 meetings with our other 2 NPOs and DOT on some what's called an ETIP tool. It's software that basically puts our funding plan, our tips online. The 3 MPOs were looking at potentially securing one software package so that all 3 MPOs are using the same program. And it's easier for DOT to be able to process that information into the STIP. At this time, the Anchorage MPO is leading the procurement process, get quotes for this software. And so at some point in the future, there may be a proposal that I bring to the board to participate in an annual subscription cost for that software. So at this time, I don't even have a rough estimate of what that might cost, but we are exploring that and hope to get, Anchorage hopes to get us all proposals here in the coming months. Under correspondence and communication, I did submit the letter to the governor supporting the continuation of the Roads and Highways Advisory Board, which was approved at our last meeting. There's been no response to that to date, but it has been provided to them. We also drafted a letter to the Commissioner's Office requesting that the AMATs and fast planning tip amendments be submitted to our federal partners separately from STIP amendment number 2. This was a letter that was drafted at the request of one of our technical committee members. However, 2 days before our technical committee meeting, DOT turned in all 3. So they turned in the STIP amendment and our tip amendments to federal highways. And all 3 of those have been approved as of July 14th. So that makes it a non-issue to have on our agenda here today. I have also drafted a letter based on our discussion at the last policy board meeting to the Commissioner's Office requesting certain information on the NPO coordination items, and we'll take that up on weekly business item 8A. And I also signed and submitted a letter of support to UAF and the Federal Transit Administration for their grant application to FTA's Bus and Bus Facilities Program for a new transit maintenance facility plan UAF is pursuing. On the next page, page 14, July for us is our budget month where we have began preparation of our office budget for federal fiscal year 2026. And so we hope to have that wrapped up by the end of the month to present to the policy board for approval and any amendments you'd like to see next month. And then we still have, if there's some outlined issues with that, we still have the month of September as well to take up any further amendments to the budget the board would like to see. For public outreach, it's also been a big month for that. Corey and Olivia did host a bike valet in downtown parking garage for the Midnight Sun Festival. We've also received 7,000 bikeways maps, the new 2025 maps. And about half of those have been distributed to businesses and organizations throughout the community. So that's an ongoing effort. Olivia and Corey also worked on a story map for the bike lane sign and striping pilot program. And there is a public survey now that's live. There's actually 2 versions of the survey, one that's an abbreviated or condensed survey and one that's more of a extended survey. We tried to frame the survey such that we are really encouraging all positive and negative feedback because we know there's some pretty strong opinions both for and against the bike lanes in the communities from what we've heard. But that is live on our website and Olivia has been pushing that via social media. So we hope to present the results of that survey at some point later here this summer. And then we have a couple of examples of them here in the office, but we did receive the bike racks that were made at Hutchinson High School by the Girls Who Weld program. And I think Corey's out installing at least 6 of them today. And he already has a couple up throughout the community. So anyways, those are getting out and about and there'll be a, not necessarily a press release, but there'll be a big push to showcase those by Fast Planning here soon. And we hope to continue that program the next school year. Girls Who Weld. And then, last thing for the staff report here, we did submit TIP administrative modification to DOT for incorporation into the STIP, and that has already been incorporated, into the STIP. Which makes our TIP amendment number 1, obsolete at this point, but both have been approved and incorporated into the STIP officially. So that's good news, as we just have a couple weeks left to make our final obligations for the year.
Thank you, Jackson. I just want to, for the record, show that Mayor Hopkins and Mayor Cruz are joining us. And before I forget,
I'm only here at 12:10. Due to
before I forget,
broadcasting
the
reasons.
bike path, on the bike racks, maybe we could, as a body, do a formal resolution of thanks to the girls in well-being.
Yes, absolutely.
Could put on the next agenda, so tell them thank you for that. Any questions for Jackson? Any questions, Scott?
Yeah, I had a question about the, that E-tip tool. Is that, something that's being used by other MPOs?
Yes, we got demonstrations from 2 different software providers, and this is specific to MPOs and being used by other ones. So we need to do some legwork to reach out to them, to visit with them on what their experience has been with that software.
Okay, when you kind of drill in on one that's your preferred choice, I'd just be interested in seeing what it looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
You have the. Oh, that's just.
Any other questions? Here,
On the note of the thanks to the program at Hutch, the Girls That Well program, is there any way we can give them a small thank you dollar gift of a couple $100? Do we have a program like that that we can support?
how much do you have in your wallet?
Purposely keep a thin wallet for just that question. I don't know if they had like $250 or something like that. No, it's fine. I just didn't know.
So for this program, we used our nonprofit funds to purchase the materials for them. But yes, it's part of the school district. We can make a donation from Fast Planning to that program. If we wish, we do have a promotions account, and there's a few $5,000 or more left in that account at this time. So if we want to make a gift for the current program or a future year program, we can do that. But our intention next school year is to make the same offer to purchase the materials for them. So we have a promotions category in our budget for things of that nature. So something to think about.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Become the public comments. This is a period when anyone can comment on anything other than an action item on our agenda. And you have 5 minutes to do that. And do we have anyone online first?
If there's anyone online who would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Or put a message in the chat.
Is there anyone here in the room? Seeing nobody, we're gonna close public comments, I guess. It's about the briefest I ever remember. That brings us to old business. First one is item 7A, statewide transportation improvement program, amendment number 2. Status updated from Alaska DOT. Is Catherine here? We're doing
I
that?
believe Catherine is gonna.
Okay,
join us.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
Catherine, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So a couple things, as Jackson mentioned, yeah, we're pretty happy to have the approval of STIP Amendment 2. That came through 2 days ago on July 14th. And we have that full approval with no corrective actions. I just, thanks to Federal Highways and FTA who had worked with us in the previous weeks with reviews and working sessions with our staff to come to this point where we could have full approval of this STIP. So looking forward to continuing that. And I somehow, despite the reduced numbers of staff within Federal Highways, especially, they're still finding time to go through these programs and help ensure that we're all having success here. There are some changes to that STIP. That was the changes between what was finally approved versus the public comment version. And we alluded to this the last time that I spoke, provided everybody an update, which had to do with the change in match amount for the department for FY 26 surface transportation program match. There's changes to aviation match as well, but here we're just talking about our surface transportation program. So with that reduced match that was available, we did have to go through our project list for 26 and also 27 and have to shift that projects around. So what you'll see in the website, and I encourage everybody, please go to the website and look at the projects that are there. As this is our STIP dashboard, you won't see projects that are within the MPA listed out on that, but you can certainly review it for other projects of interest. Overall, what it means between 26 and 27 is that there's about 850 million in projects for construction that had shifted around either from 26 to 27 or 27 to 28. And it's about 34 projects that were impacted by this. So we are actively working with governor's office and having conversations, initial conversations with the legislature so we can work towards that legislative fix that we talked about. But right now in our STIP to maintain fiscal constraint, we did have to make those changes. So we're continuing to communicate to our staff and our consultant teams, please push forward towards that original schedule. And, we're optimistic that we're going to find a way through that. But what you'll notice in the STIP is that those changes had been made. And we will continue to communicate with everyone on changes, any new developments, and please let us know if there's questions we can answer on that. I think the amendment sets us up very well for August redistribution. The state was set to receive 127 million if we had obligations that could absorb that extra authority. And currently in our August redistribution plan, we are expecting to be able to do so and perhaps request additional authority. So that plan is under development, final review right now. Federal Highways puts forward their request to their headquarters on July 22nd. So I think at the next update, a month from now, we'll be able to provide more detail on that amount and what that will mean to the state. So yeah, everyone's been working hard, including all of you. Our construction season is looking to be the strongest that we've had yet with construction contract awards between what we've already awarded and what we expect to award through the remaining of the year. We'll almost be at $1 billion. So yeah, thanks to everybody for all you've been doing, and I can stick around for some questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. We're gonna see if there's any questions. Anybody on the board? Questions? Mayor Hopkins.
Thank you. Definitely glad to hear it got submitted and approved. That's wonderful, and hopefully we can go forward. And see those projects on the street and get that dirt turned and have good work here, especially with the conformity freeze coming up. Looking at the letter from Commissioner Anderson to Chair Clearworth and this past planning committee, there were some things in there that I wanted to follow up on and ask some questions about, Ms. Keith. First of all, on page 2, under the STIP alignment and coordination timing, it says that the Department of Transportation, second paragraph on page 2, Department of Transportation delayed STIP Amendment 2 submittal until both AMATS and fast planning policy boards had approved our TIP revisions. I don't remember ever hearing that was a reason for delay. Did you ever let us know or notify us that was one of the reasons you guys were delaying?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, for the opportunity to clarify this. Yeah, certainly we were ready to submit the STIP. This was prior to the TIPs being approved. This was several months ago now. So that was initially one reason, was that we were all very excited to have the STIP and all of the tips be submitted simultaneously within weeks, so that they weren't out of alignment with the fiscal constraint and the amount of funding for the projects. Because of these other reasons that we've talked about, that didn't happen. So that's what this was mentioning. We were certainly trying to hold on to it. It was a matter of weeks that we were holding so that we could have that final alignment. But I think one of the findings in the letter, the recommendations from the federal partners, was that, yeah, we still need to work on this piece and how we can streamline and correlate them better as we move forward.
So I guess I just want to ask again, did you ever let us know that that was one of the reasons you were delaying submission?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I believe that we did in the public comment or in the comment section at that meeting. We'd have to look at the record though. So I'm sorry, I don't recollect exactly, but I do believe we did.
I can speak to this a little bit too, Catherine. We talked about this at the MPO quarterly, the last one that we had about, in terms of this, we really wanted to get everybody together. I think you guys actually had yours first, and it was AMATs, that came in a little bit later. But yes, this was well understood with the executive directors that we were trying to, align these things. Obviously, other things happened after your TIP amendment approvals that led to additional delays. But one of the other action items that kind of speaks to this ongoing coordination that we talked about, may have been 2 MPO quarterlies ago now, was a request to the MPOs to sort of develop a schedule for when they would need information from us for their tips, so that we could build a routine alignment of these things instead of, you know, being successful one, and we were almost successful. And then kind of getting out of alignment again. I don't know, Jackson, if that schedule has been developed or submitted yet. I don't recall seeing anything, but I know it's complicated because we, you know, right now we have 2 things in the SIP to coordinate. And now, you know, moving forward in 26, we'll have 3 tips and a SIP to coordinate. And so we did have an ask of the MPOs to sort of give us their alignment schedule so that then we can back in our work. And so that's still a coordination piece that's ongoing.
I think, it was mentioned yesterday at the planning meeting that the letter from Federal Highway said meeting at least monthly going forward for the 26 STIP amendments, with all the MPOs to try to get a more timely submitted STIP. I certainly don't remember hearing specifically that it was delayed, and I remember back in, I want to say February, March timeframe, it was the physical constraint tables that were being worked on still. And we got ours in April, for the TIP amendments, so 3 months ago. And if it was just shortly a little bit after, for AMATs, it was a long delay from us, and we never heard that it came from us, and our delay. So I guess, you know, next time, let us know and we can move quicker, if need be, because we have a regular dialogue here and opportunities to communicate quarterly with you guys and the MPOs, because I take a little bit of umbrage that it was us holding it up. As well as the legislative process that you talked about. You know, going back and reviewing the dialogues at the committee tables for finance and those finance and transportation committee. Definitely the finance ones where there was presentations, there was not a lot of warning that, you know, we're going to have to redo everything. If what the legislature's reappropriations were done, took action, you know, $20 to $30 million of that vetoed money by the governor was from old match funds, that were 10+ years old. That were the department already had the authority, and the governor had the authority to reappropriate those specific funds, from those 10+ year old projects that had not been moved forward to current match projects. And that was what the legislature did with this intent. You can go back and look at what they planned on doing, and it was moving some of it was moving the old match funds that was 10+ years old to new projects. And it was the joke is the 3 most powerful positions in state government are the 3 regional DOT directors, because there's the ability to move funds around as needed, and that was there. The legislature indicated this intent to fund specific projects with it, with that reappropriation. And the governor vetoing those projects out and eliminating those projects did not change the ability to move forward with those fundings, because the department already had that authority to do that, and moving the legislature did was not going to impact those, the federal match dollars and those programs that it could bring into our state, those match dollars. So I guess I take disagreement with that, as well as the $32 million for, it was the Juneau Access Road that was vetoed. The day after the legislature adjourned, Department of Transportation sent out a press release saying it was going to reappropriate those dollars to the harbor project, the Cascade Point Harbor project. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was no federal strings and federal impacts on that, that went from the Juneau Access Road project to the Cascade Harbor project. So that again, and then the reappropriating those dollars does not show fiscal restraint. It shows using match dollars that would have brought in $300 million nearly to our state, to a very specific project, the Cascade Point one. So that again does not match with what the rationale was for, nor the fiscal restraint when it comes to general fund dollars. And the the tip amendment was due on the 25th. Public comment period closed in March. The legislature adjourned May 21st, and here we are 2 months later with it being submitted. So, you know, the governor choosing to make those vetoes on his own delayed this additionally, not the action of the legislature. So saying those two things in here, I guess I take some umbrage and some concerns with. So I don't appreciate fast planning being blamed for it, or the governor's veto not being part of this, when everything on the record indicated these projects could have moved forward.
Thanks for those comments, Mayor. One thing that I will say is it was never intended to blame FAST at all for the delays. It certainly wasn't the cause at all. So happy to send a correction or a clarification of that for the record. The intention here was just to show we were working to coordinate timing, which, as we know, ended up not becoming synchronous for this submission. So we'll just keep working on that moving forward. And the second thing I could offer up is if the policy board's interested in learning more about the match process and these funds, you know, happy to offer Don Panoan, which is our CFO basically of the department, with Director of Program Management and Administration, can certainly explain the how our match works, why this situation resulted as it has, and then you certainly can form, you know, your perspectives from there. But it could be really worth it if this is a topic that's of interest to dig into more.
I think it was Keith. Don Pannone presented to the legislature on these reappropriations and never mentioned that it was going to put all of these projects in jeopardy and $600 million worth of federal funds to our state. I think he had a very good opportunity. I know Don, I respect his work. I've known him for years. And I think he would have had the opportunity if it was, you know, known at that time. So I don't think we need him to present here. I think that opportunity was at the legislature, and I wonder
Yeah,
why
thank
that
you, Mayor.
wasn't
We
done
did actually communicate that, but Mr. Chair, if you're interested in a presentation, you know, the offer stands. We're happy to provide that.
Anyone else? Question?
No, I'll just speak to the comment about the monthly meetings. You know, we're kind of waiting to see what Federal Highways is envisioning there. We had kind of a similar thing with FHWA as we prepared for STIP Amendment 2 in terms of very detailed review. I think it's great that Federal Highways is and FTA are looking at approaching the TIPs with the same level of detail that they've been approaching the STIP. So we're really looking forward to seeing kind of what FHWA is envisioning there and working through those. So we're all kind of in a stay tuned mode right now. Obviously I'm concerned with the division office staffing about what that's gonna look like and the resources, but hopefully they reach out soon with some more details there.
Anyone else? Again, thank you, Ms. Keith, for being with us. This this afternoon. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
We're gonna move on to item 7B. This is an action item, advertising pre-policy board meetings to be open to the public and corresponding bylaws revision. Open to the staff report, the attachments we have here.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cleaver. Just to share with you all what's included in the packet. And kind of the background on this action item here today. Olivia, if you go to page 32. At our March policy board meeting, there was a motion made that was approved to have pre-policy board meetings to be held open to the public. Since that date, we have been advertising them as open public meetings. However, the situation has been since March to today, even for yesterday's meeting. We did not achieve quorum to hold those meetings. And in our bylaws, go to page 34, you'll see highlighted that a quorum shall consist of 4 members of the policy board, and in the absence of a quorum, no meeting shall be held. However, we have continued to proceed with those meetings, which is not consistent with our bylaws. And so I spoke with our chair and we decided to add this back on the agenda for our reconsideration of the original motion for potentially modifying the bylaws to allow pre-policy board meetings to move forward without quorum. So this is up to the board to discuss how to handle the situation.
Thank you, Jackson. Any questions for him before we go to public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to testify on this item? I don't see anyone online. Anyone here? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Board. Mayor Church.
If I may, reading through the bylaws, I appreciate the pre-policy meeting very much. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make that yesterday. I think it is important to have it be an open meeting, but in the instances where we haven't had enough people and we haven't been able to be in person, I think it's still important that we have those meetings for those that are able to attend. So I would like to propose an amendment to section 6 to read, in the absence of a quorum, strike no, add in A, meeting shall be held, but no business shall be conducted other than an adjournment.
Is that as a motion? Goodman,
Please.
second it.
It's been moved by Mayor Church, seconded by Mayor Cruz. Did you get the wording on that?
In the absence of a quorum, strike no in front of meetings shall be held. Just take out the word no.
Well, there's an end phrase there.
I had,
No business shall be conducted except adjournment.
And no business shall be.
I guess I have to ask a couple questions here because I've been to one of the pre-policy meetings. And Scott excused himself because we had too many people here, we're breaking up the meeting. So why are we worried about having a quorum? When we still have the meeting anyway? I'm just curious.
No, go ahead.
You know, so section 5 says what the quorum is, and that those votes are required to approve any action. Is section 6 redundant? I mean, at the end of the day, you need a quorum to take action. The pre-policy meetings are functionally intended to not take action, purely informational.
Just informational.
And further, you know, the quorum is required for any action. We still have the choice to not hold a meeting without section 6 if you don't feel it's valuable, so we can't take action, but you would still have the option of
Having a meeting,
having any meeting.
yeah, exactly, but we're not voting on anything, it's just the
We
meeting,
just don't have
yeah.
action. But I guess that's, to me, section 6 just looks redundant to section 5.
Any other
How about
discussion?
removing words?
I've been to many of those pre-policy meetings.
Mr. Kraft?
Yeah, I think this goes back to kind of, I mean, I originally was against advertising these, and this is why. When we have a meeting, according to our bylaws, we're coming together as a body to take action on the record. These are not meetings of the past planning policy board, they're the get informational sharing time. We just heard earlier that AMATS doesn't publicly notice their policy board meetings. I think we're being way past belt and suspenders by noticing these. I think that when we have meetings, we should have a quorum so we can take action on the record. I think we're meeting our obligation to the public in that way. So I would be opposed to this in favor of returning to our old way of doing business where we just publicly notice the meetings where we take action.
Other comments?
If we return to the way it was, we could still only have 3 people for that discussion. We couldn't have 4 at that time, correct? Correct, okay. I've only been to 12 months worth of the pre-meetings.
Consider yourself fortunate.
No, I learned a lot yesterday. But thanks, I'll count my lucky stars on those few times I am. I haven't run into quorum issues there. I think it did work well before. That's laughable that AMAS doesn't even have their action meetings, publicly noticed. So I'm with, Mr. Krass on it. But other than that, it's framed yesterday when we had a meeting without quorum, but I think that's a fair point to church. Don't know how I'll vote, but I'll figure it out.
Just a point of clarification, MVP, not AMAT.
Oh,
sorry.
That's Matt.
gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense than there.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
And also structured differently. AMAT is housed under the meeting, so they have some different rules they have to follow, similar to how fast was back in the day when they were in the city.
So that's a notice them, I'm guessing.
AMAT's does.
Yeah, yes, MVP different.
Okay, I think I'll do my 2 cents worth here. I believe strongly in Open Meetings Act, and I think that even the pre-meeting should be under it, but we should have a provision to operate without having that quorum there, and for both bodies. I remember years ago in the city council, we sometimes had no quorum at a Monday night meeting, believe it or not. But we continued the meeting to get the staff reports, to have our public hearing, but people who took the time to show up. And then we just didn't take any formal action, ordinances or resolutions, but you didn't discourage the folks from coming. Then you would adjourn at that time. All those items would have to be taken up at the next meeting when you have a formal forum. This kind of addresses the same kind of a situation. If we, as a policy board, didn't have a forum, we could still have public testimony, which I think is important. People, again, to take the time to show up and do that, to get staff reports, educate ourselves. You can't take any formal action on an action item that would have to be delayed, but you still carry on with the meeting and get that information. Same with the pre-meeting. I've always liked the pre-meetings, like the back and forth and the information we get out of that. But I don't want any circumstance where we have to discourage a policy board member from being there. Yes, it's only happened one time that I know of, but I'm hoping it'll happen more than that, and that our participation will be better than that. And so I think it's important that the meeting continues, and we did that yesterday. We continued the meeting, getting the information, so that we could be prepared for today. But this formalizes it, so I guess I would speak in favor of it. Any other discussion?
So would we, Mayor Church's amendment would stop what you like from happening because we wouldn't be able to continue with the staff report and stuff like that and ask questions?
Yeah, the meeting would still take place. It's gonna be, we get, I want to hear the reports. I want to hear what's going on. I don't want to miss a month. what we deal with can get pretty technical.
Yeah.
As you know, if you're doing your homework and stuff on that, so. I don't wanna miss someone, but more than that, I don't wanna disenfranchise anyone from giving public testimony ever. That's important. So, Mr. Kress.
So is your intention to take public testimony at the pre-policy board meetings?
No, the format there is still gonna remain the same, but they can be there in the room and I'm open to, even if they wanna make a comment. We've had it before. We've had staff members from the borough that have participated. And just like anybody from the general public, we're pretty open to that.
And I apologize, I haven't been able to attend since we've gone to these advertised ones, because my schedule's been full, but. Jackson's been kind enough to fill me in with a phone call when I've needed. So are they now operating under Robert's rules? Are you chairing them? It's just more of a work session format?
Jackson is chairing. I'm essentially, he's just sharing he's going through the packet. Kind of going pretty much page by page and answering questions. It's informative.
See, and I think this is where I'm getting hung up is the bylaws are addressing our policy board meetings and the actions of this board. And then what you're describing is another thing. And I understand that you're trying to invite the public into those. Yeah, anyway.
But I never kicked anybody out. I mean, if they show up, they don't kick them out.
No, I understand that, but you know, my issue is that in the absence of a quorum, no meeting should be held. I think that's appropriate for our policy board meetings where we were, have things scheduled, action items. We wouldn't want three folks, to hear the public testimony on an action item and then the policy board to come back and with four other members who hadn't heard any of that testimony to then take action.
We wouldn't take public testimony on action item. Those will not be taken up. You would take it at the beginning of the meeting.
So, yeah, my point is that, so if there were three members of the policy board, what would, if we adopted this during our regular policy board meeting where we had an agenda, they could continue on and then you could hear staff reports and then a quorum of the board would be missing and not receive that information.
You would not be taking up action items. Like on today's agenda, let's say there's only three of us here, we would not take up 7B, we would not take up 7C, nor 8A. You just bypass those, but the rest of the agenda would.
See, and okay, and so I understand that, and I remain opposed as I feel you would have a majority of board members without the requisite information to make good decisions going forward. This is like, there's a reason it's on the agenda. And so I think we want to ensure that we have a quorum as we move through our agendas, our policy board agendas. So I'm going to remain opposed. Thank you.
You would want, you'd want to vote in favor of Mayor Church's amendment because you wouldn't want the meeting to happen without a majority of the board members there. And his would be if there is no board, if there's not a quorum, then we adjourn and go home.
No, that's not how I read it.
Okay.
That's the.
And if I may, thank you for that point. It's something that I didn't consider. Scott, I didn't consider the fact, I just looked at the pieces of information that we were handed, 33 and 34 as part of our bylaws. And the agenda that addresses pre-policy board meetings in our bylaws. I did not take into account and consideration that this would also maybe change our policy board meeting. So with that knowledge, maybe we should go back and amend the amendment to section 6. That says during the policy board meeting, in the absence of a quorum, a meeting shall be held, but no business shall be conducted other than adjournment. And then maybe section 8 add the original verbiage or some such manner to protect us during the pre-policy board meeting. I did not like when you bowed out of a pre-policy board meeting because we were over the allotted number of slots. during that time, and I think it's super important that we have pre-policy meetings in the open. There's nothing to hide, but it's a great informational piece. That 99% of the time, it's general policy board members that are there anyway. Not a lot of members of the public, that's okay. It's an informational, I consider it to be similar to a workshop, so. Not actually making a formal motion, but open to suggestions to amend my original motion to make it make sense with the addition of.
Are you gonna withdraw your motion?
Should I? Chair?
No, this is a question. Both of us have to agree to it,
Right,
but if you're gonna withdraw the motion, of course I'm gonna.
right.
But Laura probably has something to say.
Already getting a reputation here.
How many mayors we got in here?
It's, a few things that I heard. So I guess one thing is, I do totally agree that some sort of public notice and aware, like any discussion we're having shouldn't be state secrets, right? I think that's absolutely a good direction for this board to do. The idea that you may get information at this meeting without a quorum of people getting the same information, somehow influencing final decisions, feels maybe a little risk averse. It's our responsibility as policy board members to get the information we need to make sound decisions, and that may be from this group, it may be from conversations or information we have outside, but at the end of the day, we are, as individuals, responsible for educating ourselves and coming prepared to make good decisions, ask the right questions in the policy board setting if we didn't get what we needed from pre-policy or weren't able to attend. And so I would hate for a sort of a perception that if we didn't have a quorum, we didn't have enough educated people coming to policy board being a reason for adding additional administrative burden on ourselves or preventing ourselves from individuals feeling like they need to come to pre-policy to get the full information they need or not. To me, that's the problem with the quorum, is that it's preventing people from getting the information they need potentially, because they feel like they need to come to pre-policy to be prepared for policy. Many of us may not have that same need, but it doesn't change our responsibility to be educated and informed when we come to the action items. So I guess those were the two thoughts on kind of the discussion I've heard. I still generally feel like section 6 is extra words that, we can meet, we can discuss, but we can't take action, and that's addressed in section 5.
Let me follow up on that. So if section 6 were to be eliminated, you just had section 5, would your reading of that be, okay, a quorum consists of 4 policy board members, 4 supporting votes are required to approve any action, so you automatically skip your action items and take on your other agenda items. Okay,
Well, I don't know that you would need to skip your action items. You could still have discussion. You just can't make a decision. Can't take action on them. That's really how I read that. You can't vote to approve sending the letter to the commissioner's office, for example. We can discuss it. We can all get a little better informed, but we can't take action without a quorum.
so you want your staff report and your public testimony. Okay.
You'd have the option, right?
Yep. And you do it again at the next meeting. Okay. Well, do I hear any other amendments before I vote? Mayor Turch?
With that understanding of section 5 being, as was just stated, I would like to withdraw my motion and amend that to remove section 6.
I'll second that.
So we've got with the concurrence of the second.
Well, that's special. I too shall withdraw my second of that motion.
So we have a new motion by Mayor Turch to eliminate section 6. Seconded by Laura, or? Okay, discussion on that? Chris,
So the effect of this is now that we can have a meeting without a quorum, we're just not allowed to take up action items. That would be the net effect of this. And so I remain opposed to this, as if there is information that we need to on the record receive. And the on the record part is what we're debating here is, can you be on the record as the policy board? Can two people show up, everyone else can't make it. And it's, you know, a representative from DOT tells some crucial information to the mayor, the borough mayor, and none of us are here to hear it on the record. It is then written down, and I guess it's incumbent on all of us to go back, read those notes, and receive the information retroactively. I think there's value in what happens when there is a quorum of this body, it's a majority, and we're able to receive information. I know it doesn't, action items are the, you know, that's the sweet spot. That's usually where we, you know, end up taking up all our time like we are now. I apologize. But I think that this body being a majority of the body receiving that information has merit as well. And is important that when we're on the record, it is all four of us, and that's what a quorum implies. So I remain opposed.
are our meetings recorded?
Yeah, so the pre-policy meetings are recorded, but one day is not nearly, we're not doing minutes on them because it's a work session. So I mean, even if,
But for the policy board, we recorded.
And the policy.
Meetings are recorded.
yep,
So the policy board wants it not only be in the minutes. You know, if they had less than a quorum, it would be recorded that you could listen to. The policy board, yeah. Laura?
Yeah, just a couple points of clarification. I think you can discuss action items, you can't take an action. That's, I think, the way I read, we cannot approve an action. But you can have all the discussion you want, the regular policy, the free policy. Your scenario, that same conversation, that's a key piece of information the policy board needs to make a decision. That should absolutely, again, be discussed at policy. Free policy, you know, may have some discussion, but it's absolutely, if in that situation, if I'm the DOT representative providing that key piece of information, that's absolutely my responsibility to make sure at the time of voting that that information is transmitted to the policy board in the formal notes that get transcribed. That would be my responsibility. It should never be, oh, hey, you know, Mayor Hopkins, let me give you the inside scoop and honestly, how would that even benefit? That's 2 votes of a entire policy. Well, yeah, it doesn't, I don't see how that plays out in a way that would affect a final outcome.
Any other discussion? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take a vote. The vote is simply to eliminate section 6. As far as I understand. Jackson, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor Church,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
No.
Mr. Claver,
Yes.
Mayor Cruz,
Yes,
Mayor Hopkins,
Yes,
Ms. Little,
Yes,
and Mr. Olds.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-1. We move on, item 7. C. Bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee goals and responsibilities. And pages 35 to 38 in the agenda here. Jackson, would you go ahead and give your report, please?
Yeah, I think I can sum this up in one page here on page 35 in the packet. This is a topic that we've discussed at previous policy board meetings. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is interested in changing their name, as well as adding 4 new seats to the committee for representatives from law enforcement, school district, transit, people with disabilities, as well as changing their meeting frequency from monthly to every other month, with the opportunity to have work sessions as needed for specific project reviews. Those changes were encapsulated into revisions to the roles and responsibilities document, which was brought to the technical committee in May. The technical committee agreed to those changes with the exception of the name change. They didn't think it was appropriate to change the name of the committee to what they had asked for. Rather than bring that forward to the policy board immediately after, we did bring that back we referred it back to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to share the input that was received from the technical committee on their name change, as well as their wish to make the additional 4 seats as non-voting ex officio members. So included in your packet on pages 37 and 38, you'll see the most recent revised version. The Bike and Ped Advisory Committee was still adamant they would like to change their name. However, they did slightly modify it from the Walk and Roll Advisory Committee to the Walk, Ride and Roll Advisory Committee. The acronym is still RAC for them. And then there was discussion about the non-voting ex officio status of the additional 4 seats. There was no official motion made by the Bike and Ped Advisory Committee on reaffirming that they would like to have those voting members, but I believe that was the sentiment at the meeting from the members. So you kind of have 3 decision points here today. One is within regard to the committee name change. The second one is with regard to the addition of the 4 new seats and whether or not they are non-voting ex officio members. And then the last decision is the change to their meeting frequency going from monthly to every other month. But the changes, as I've kind of outlined there from both bodies, are reflected on pages 37 and 38 in the packet.
Thank you. Any questions for Jackson?
How did this come about?
Mayor Cruz.
Just curious how this came about.
It's my fault. I
I mean,
wanted.
this is extensive. What were you thinking?
Yeah, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee isn't as inclusive as I would hope for it to be as a committee that focuses on planning for all of the users that are not in a vehicle. And so after been doing literature reviews quarterly and just looking to different resources, I proposed the BPAC change their name to something a little more inclusive. The Walk, Ride and Roll is interesting too, because as we know, we also have like an ATV community here as well. And so we really struggled with like just pedestrian and just bicycle when there are just all of these other modes that people use to get around, and we can specifically highlight one or the other. And so this is a great way to do that. And so I brought them like 20 different name alternatives. And this is what we came up with. So that is how it came about. Transit, yeah, riding, also transit. It's we're trying to bundle transit into the BPAC a little more fully now that we have our transit plan and coordinated human services transportation plans approved.
Other questions for staff? Lauren?
Oh, that's actually some really great clarification, because that was kind of when I started reading the title, I was like, well, I mean, really, you guys are just non-motorized, but now what I'm hearing is really you're trying to encompass those other modes, non-vehicular. And I do think you're spot on that does get lost, even though it is fairly significant user group in our right away, legally or otherwise, right? Right. But it definitely speaks to the broader, the safety, the vulnerable road user perspective, like it's more than just bikes and peds. So that actually really helps me a lot in understanding kind of some of why these changes, and I do appreciate that perspective. The counterpoint to that is do we lose some of the focus on that non-motorized group by getting too broad? I don't know. Yeah, very cool, thank you.
Scott?
Thank you. I question, I think for probably Olivia, the meeting schedules, was it the Walk, Ride and Roll Committee, I guess currently the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, did they want the monthly meeting? And this would move it to every other, or they wanted it bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly, yeah, every other month, with the opportunity to have work sessions to key in on specific conversations. We were just finding that, especially with the standing up of the Bike Friendly Fairbanks program over the last 3 years, bike valet on Thursdays every week of the summer,
Everybody's out
what have
biking.
you. Yeah, exactly, and it's just, it's getting increasingly, more difficult to actually get stuff done in our meetings, because it's either we can't get to setting up items for the agenda in enough time, or the meetings are going to exactly 2 hours. It's difficult.
And then another question would be the ex officio membership change, that changed between the technical committee and the BIPAC.
Yes, yeah,
So the bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee wanted to retain those as voting seats,
they did, yeah.
and then the technical committee wanted them to be ex officio. So,
Yes.
all right, to get us started, I'd like to move that we adopt the amended
First-
changes.
You have questions for Jackson first?
Oh,
and we'll
okay.
get to the whole motion. Is there any other questions for staff? Mayor from church.
I have some questions. Have you reached out to law enforcement, school district, transit, and people with disabilities, and have interest from those groups to actually want to be on this board, since we're changing the bylaws to include them?
Short answer is yes. In years past, we actually used to have a person who was a representative for Access Alaska, but they were serving a specific seat. And so what this does by naming these particular seats is it opens up the opportunity for someone to be a representative for that specific group of people, whether it's transit or accessibility. And it removes the need to be like, okay, hey, City of North Pole, we really don't have anyone that's representing accessibility in this community. Could you be the person that appoints the person to do that thing? And so this enables us to sort of open it up and say, let's just fill that seat. So I really think we would have absolutely no problem filling those seats now, that if this were adopted, there wouldn't be this sort of runaround situation to get them filled.
And if I may, just one more follow-up. Under meetings and duration, it has been stricken here in red. BPAC will be under the review of the TC and Technical Committee and Policy Board at the start of each fiscal year. Why would you remove that from the statement?
That's a Jackson.
Yeah, I can take that one,
Okay.
because we put that statement in our bylaws for our other committees.
So it's already there.
Yes,
We're just cleaning this up.
yep, correct.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Hopkins.
In the second one with a transit seat, what were you envisioning as transit? Is that somebody from the Borough Transportation Department? How were you envisioning that?
I mean, that would definitely be ideal, especially since we have someone like M&O with DOT, and that's really helpful for our conversations. But at the end of the day, an avid transit user who advocates for transit needs and planning would also just be great and ideal, so. It's transit specific.
Other questions? Mayor Prus.
Well, you're going from sidewalks and bicycles to everything on a street, road, except for a waterway. And you're taking your meeting time and you're cutting it in half. And we've not even really had a big discussion on this or a work session on this. So I just find this too much, too early, too fast for me to review and approve and know what this is gonna be doing. I'd rather we delay this and have members of the proposed walk, ride, and roll committee come in and give us a presentation of what exactly their meeting is and why they need this. Period.
I just do want to provide a point of clarification that the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee already serves all of these user groups. The name is just simply acknowledging that, because the name as it is doesn't say, hey, we include transit users and kids going to school.
Olivia, I'm looking at your vision. And you've multiplied it by 7 times. Okay, and you're an oversight committee. No matter what you are, advisory or oversight.
There was some back.
Go ahead, Corey.
I think one of the challenges that we face is that these discussions happen at our events, but when we're providing public advertising out there without saying explicitly in the name of this group, that we're also talking about transit connectivity with bikes. We're not, we're not. It's not inherent in the name, and that I think truncates the potential conversations that we could be having. So we're really just trying to align the current function of the group with what the group is flying under the banner of.
So you're already under public transportation.
Yes,
You're already under senior and human services transportation.
yes,
You're already under mobile for people with disabilities and better serve other groups.
yes.
You already do that.
These people show up to our meetings when there are specific line items that they're aware of, but the general public doesn't know to show up to these because it's not inherent, it's not implied in the name at all. It makes it sound like it's just people on foot or people on bicycles, but
And able-bodied.
able-bodied, yeah.
How was this expanded over time? Just curious.
Because I feel like all of these issues are salient to non-motorized transportation.
Infrastructure.
And one of the new roles that we took on as an MPO is to do the transit planning on behalf of the community. So the federal transit planning funding is now coming to our MPO. We developed the 10-year update to the local transit plan, as well as the 5-year update to the coordinated human services transportation plan. And this committee was the main steering committee for that work and working with our consultant team. So they have been working on coordinated human services in transit for the past year and a half.
Thank you.
Mayor Church.
Under persons, on page 238. It's also stricken that all persons of the appointed members shall be submitted to the policy board for approval by the policy board. Why was that stricken and why is that needed?
I can answer that when we went through the bylaws, that was eliminated at the time.
Okay.
That's to be in line with bylaws. I have a question. Who actually drafted page 37, 38?
That was primarily myself.
I mean, that kind of caught me by surprise too, because I knew of the 3 items that we were supposed to deal with today, and then I read that last night. Oh, this thing is hard. Okay. Any other discussion with staff? Clarification? Seeing that now, we'll take up whatever motion there was going to be there.
Never taken public comments.
Well, thank you, Liv. Let's open up the public comment. Anyone online first wishing to testify?
Travis Snyder.
Travis, go ahead.
Hello, thanks for the opportunity. I'm Travis Snybert. I've been on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I think about 4 years now. And I do think our vision is to change the name to try to include people with disabilities and other users who use sidewalks and multi-use paths that aren't just bikes or just people on foot that you would think about if you hear the word pedestrian. So I hope you continue to consider that name change. I also wanted to clarify that as myself, and I think from the discussion with the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, most of, if not all of the other members of the committee would prefer, if you add seats to the committee, that they would be voting members. Action items that are taken by our committee always move up to the technical committee and then always move up to the policy board. So it's not like we're taking actions as a committee that are not reviewed or approved by the technical committee or the policy board. So it seems kind of silly to have non-voting people on an advisory committee. Like if you're trying to get people to advise you on a committee, you'd want to give them a stronger voice. And in terms of getting those 4 new seats filled, if you approve 4 new seats, and I don't think it will be hard to fill those seats with people, especially if they have a strong voice, an actual voting voice on the action items we take. And I'm happy to answer any other questions you have for someone who is on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee now.
Thank you, Travis. Yeah, we'll see. Mayor Turk, go ahead.
Hi Travis, do you live in Fairbanks or in North Pole?
I live in the borough, just outside of Fairbanks city limits, but not in city limits.
And do you ride, walk, or roll at any time in North Pole?
Every once in a while, I ride my bike to North Pole, but not very often. But I ride my bike quite a bit in Fairbanks.
If I may just address his desires to have voting members from the 4 that are added.
Actually, at this time, questions for him, not on the item, so.
Understood, thank you.
Sorry.
No worries.
Any other questions for Travis? Mr. Kress?
Thanks for calling in. Travis, are you currently the chair? I know you were for a while.
I was never the chair, and I'm not currently the chair.
You were just for the walk and roll name change?
I was for the walk and roll name change, yes.
I appreciate that. Do you think the committee will be able to get its work done with the bi-monthly meetings with work sessions in between?
I do. Yeah, I think that there's been quite a few meetings that have ended early, and then there's some, times when things go really long, but it's usually on one item things go long on. So I think those would be more appropriate for a work session.
How long are your meetings usually?
2 hours.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Travis, again, thank you for your testimony.
Yep, thanks for having me.
I don't see anyone else online. Anyone here in the room wishing to testify? See none, public comments are closed. And then, Mayor, I think you wanted, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay,
Sometimes neither do I. I want to speak to the non-voting members. He mentioned that and their desire. From North Pole, we have 1 voting seat. I know that people from town don't typically get to North Pole because it's a long drive, quote unquote. But people from North Pole get to Fairbanks all of the time, and I feel if these
You should
members
appreciate that pleasure. sir.
are added, yeah, thank you, sir, Mayor of Fairbanks. If they're added, I'm a little concerned that it dilutes North Pole's value on the committee. As far as opinions and able to do business from the city of North Pole in helping North Pole have a voice on that committee with the additions. So if there's a way to amend the additional 4 members to include one of those from the North Pole area, I would appreciate that. I think it would do the city and Fairbanks as good as possible, since everyone from North Pole comes to Fairbanks anyway.
Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of have a couple thoughts on this. I think the first one is sort of the path Mayor Pruz was maybe walking us down of. The committee seems like they kind of decided for themselves what their role and area was, which was not necessarily in alignment with what was originally envisioned for them.
I'll talk about that later.
And maybe there needs to be some more discussion. Maybe we need new advisory committees, because I struggle a little bit to understand how we really serve our non-motorized well, while also bringing in transit connected services. It's just a very different set of needs and planning areas and expertises. I kind of follow that train of thought of are we trying to do too many things? I think the other perspective, I was around when the VPAC was originally formed, and the representatives were developed to mirror the same makeup that forms the policy board. Because at the end of the day, this is an advisory committee on the infrastructure that these entities are responsible for, maintaining, operating, ensuring the safety of. And, you know, there can be a lot of perspectives on that infrastructure. There's a lot of perspectives in the field of transportation. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the four entities that are listed here in terms of the financial responsibility for those decisions. And so my personal feeling is that retaining the integrity of that original core group is important. And that when this group was formed, it was to advise, you know, these entities that have to officially make those final decisions. And so the people selected to advise them, they should have some say in you know, who that is, and the distribution was equivalent to all support, 2 city, 2 borough, 1 state, 1 North Pole. So, those are my thoughts.
Mayor Hopkins.
Thanks, you know, I, at the pre-policy meeting yesterday, I think you asked Jackson, or Chair, you asked Mr. Fox, is the problem we can't keep going down the meetings every other month because we can't find quorum or we can't find interest in it, and Mr. Fox said, no, the list of people who want to join is quite long. And there's a lot of interest in this, and I think that those show that they're doing good work, and people have interest in trying to improve all different aspects of transit in our community. I was gonna say we should keep the positions ex officio and non-voting. But Travis, the public testimony made a good point. Why do we need a lot of, why should we have advisory positions on an advisory board? They can't take action. That is up to us to take those action and to weigh in those responsibilities. I appreciate that. I think, so I support them being voting members. It seems silly to have advisory positions on an advisory board. In terms of, you know, supporting and not diluting the impacts of this, if we wanted, we could amend these and just say that we could have a priority for some semblance of geographic disparity. Where, you know, when you look at zip codes, you can have specific zip codes covered. If somebody comes from one where they live, they would get priority over somebody else. City of North Pole does wonderful work. You guys do wonderful work out there. A vast area of the North Pole area is in the borough. And so, you know, we could get a 99705 sort of zip code area, to get to Badger to make sure that someone's there if we wanted to tweak it and say those get priority, but I support the work that they're doing and the recommended changes.
Okay, before we go on, there's 2 ways to proceed here. There's actually on page 36, there's 3 items that which we have talked about. We haven't really talked about 37, the changes there at all. Now, I think they were not supposed to have discussion until there's a motion on the floor, but I've allowed that to happen here. If there is going to be a motion, I would prefer, but it's really up to you folks, that we take each of those 3 items separately. The bullets that are listed there. And it's your call what you want to do. We need to get a motion before we go on here. So, Mayor Hopkins.
I move to change the name of the BPAC to the Walk, Ride, and Roll Advisory Committee.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Hopkins, seconded by Mr. Krass. Discussion on that. Mayor Church.
I'm not opposed to the name, but the technical committee certainly is. They shot down the previous committee name change from Walk and Roll. They shut that down. That's clear in the memorandum on page 35. I believe before we try and adopt this, we should send that back to technical committee to allow them to look at these changes and approve those. I think it's worth their value time.
Other discussion. Laura.
Yeah, my gut, after all of the discussion we've had, has been that this entire document should be sent back to technical to advise us on whether this is the group to do all of these things, if that's realistic. If there's some different makeup that makes sense. I think that's kind of, I feel like maybe this body isn't really the ones to make the final decisions. There's maybe a little bit more discussion. When I was at the technical meeting the first time where they brought this up, before I was on policy, you know, there was no discussion about the expansion of transit and ATVs and these other groups. I didn't hear that discussion in technical, and so I don't know. They have all the information we are getting today. Maybe you should get another crack at this.
So Ms. Little, are you motioning to postpone until after a complete review and report from the technical committee?
I would be if we did not already have a motion on the floor.
Two motions on.
There is a motion on the floor regarding the name. A motion to postpone would have to be taken up now. If you are going to do that, or you can wait until later, it doesn't matter. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Mayor Hopkins.
I really love the walk and roll, but I understand the reason for the tweaks. It's a name, what's in that name is not gonna change whether they have the expanded version or not. I'm trying to remember the Shakespeare quote about a road by any other name, but I couldn't remember it all, so I asked
It
this,
smells so sweet.
thank you. They were probably in the same as Scott that learned that.
Probably.
I would just say let's vote for it and support the desires of the commission to do the work.
I'm gonna chime in a little bit here. I was around when we created this committee. I don't remember if I voted for it or not, in all honesty. When it comes to committees, they scare me sometimes because in the city, we've had some incredible committees that have been given tasks that they performed admirably on. We've had others who became political entities who became kind of a nightmare. I could give you long stories about all the ones, those two extremes and the ones in between. So you need to be concise when you create them. And when we created this one, we had just a little over a one-page document with all the provisions that are on it. And the makeup, well, the name of it was the Fast Planning Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, formerly the PED Committee for short. And I thought it summed up very well what we were envisioning, which is representation from those that ride and those, especially to me, the pedestrians, and especially ADA compliance with the sidewalks or wheelchairs and things like that. That was my memory of specifically what was going on there. Jackson was there at the time too. I don't know who else is here. Even Kellen maybe, but that's what the discussion was. Well, everything was spelled out here. So I say it's kind of hard to get that off the other page here because they're showing us strikeouts and read-throughs and stuff like that, but the representation of it also, if take a liberty here, absolutely was designed to model after the policy board, same with the project enhancement committee, so that each entity here had representation on the committees. This is where I've had problems with technical, because that went away a long time ago and it just kept expanding, the 18 people or so. These were modeled after the policy board itself, so there's good representation, with one difference, that the staff selects 2 people to be on there as well, and Jackson makes those appointments. So I'm real hesitant to make changes after all the thought that went into the original one here, but that's my bias on it. Any other discussion? Yes, Scott.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'm keeping in mind as I think about this is the, you know, acknowledging the work and spirit of volunteerism and ownership that this committee has. They, you know, these are changes that they're requesting because this is something they care about deeply. They're devoting time, you know, in public service. And a way that we can honor that is by letting them call themselves by the name that they choose. And that's the motion we're on now. I'll more on this later.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we are voting on making a name change right now to page here, changing the name to Walk, Ride and Roll Advisory Committee, WRRAC. Jackson, would you call roll?
Yes, Mayor Hopkins.
Yes.
Mayor Bruce.
Yes.
Mr. Cleaver.
No.
Mr. Krass.
Yes.
Mayor Church.
No.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Okay, so it passes on a 4-2.
and Mr.
I'm
Olds.
sorry, Mr. Old,
Yes.
passes on a 4-2 vote.
5-2.
5-2, I'm sorry. There are 7 of us, aren't there? Okay, so the name has been changed. Any other amendments to be made here? Mayor Hopkins.
I move to changing the meeting frequency from monthly to every other month.
Second,
Any discussion? Mayor Bruce.
you know, most groups know when they're effective in meeting, and so what they wanna do, you let them do what they wanna do.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Jackson, you call roll on changing the meeting frequency from monthly to every other month?
Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Bruce,
Yes,
Cleaver,
Yes.
Mr. Kraus,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
and Mr. Olds.
Yes.
That passes on a 7-0 vote. Any other amendments?
I would like to amend, adding 4 new seats to the Committee of Representatives from North Pole Law Enforcement, School District Transit, and People with Disabilities. Would that satisfy you for North Pole representation, Mayor Church?
That would, it doesn't necessarily need to be from the city of North Pole, just North Pole in general. We sort of get forgotten about out there, so the general area of North Pole is all I'm looking for. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Wait a second, on your point of order here. We need a second before we can discuss this.
Second.
Seconded it. Mr. Kraus has moved by Mayor Cruz, seconded by Mr. Kraus to change law enforcement to North Pole law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay, that
North Pole area law enforcement.
I'm sorry. How would you call that? I mean, is that a borough one? Do they live on Badger?
Someone who lives in Badger and works for the city of North Pole. Simple as that.
know, just-
I would amend the motion, move to amend the motion.
Okay.
Adding 4 seats of law enforcement, school district transit, and people with disabilities, one of which the 4 shall be from the North Pole City Badger area.
Second.
all right. So now we have an amendment to the amendment. Any discussion, Mr. Kraus?
I appreciate the amendment to the amendment. One of the issues that we've had on the technical committee is the participation of our public safety. They tend to be stretched pretty thin already, so filling that geographic requirement, broadening the net, bigger net, more fish.
The intent of this would be that they can live in the area. It doesn't have to be a North Pole City police officer. It can be a trooper that lives out there. It could be a teacher from the area, a transit user, that sort of thing. So that would be the intent of that.
Other discussion?
Can we have the vote on this, carry the main motion?
Now we're gonna take them separate.
Okay.
Keep it straight. Okay, now was the main, my clarification on the main motion, was it to make them members or ex officio? I forget what you said.
In my amendment, it was voting, but
Yes, sir. If you're on a committee, you get to vote.
advisory committee doesn't have. Yeah.
You're advising an advisory committee.
Any discussion? Well, I'll speak against this. I think it's a poor idea. Again, the original, when we created both of the committees that we have of this body, they have representation that reflects the body here itself. You start adding, we're gonna get in the same situation as the technical committee, and just keep adding people. I do not know, I mean, to me, the most important one here is disability, ADA. Having a member there with the sidewalks, we design sidewalks, that is incredibly important. Law enforcement, they don't hardly, what's their attendance at the technical committee? It was spotty last time we checked. In fact, they even said they wonder why they're there. School district, transit, I mean, school district, maybe when we look at crosswalks in the schools, but when we do planning through the Complete Streets program and all that, our engineering takes all that into consideration. Transit, I think they're expanding it into areas that I know when we were working on this, we never imagined it to be a part of. So anyway, my 2 cents, Lauren.
I'll add an extra two on top of that. Not making these individuals or these roles part of the committee does not change their ability to participate. I assume the BPAC meetings are publicly noticed like everything else. Is that correct? You know, I don't think we're silencing perspectives at all by not adding voting committee members, but I do feel it's important to protect the integrity of the original intent, which is that these are advising us as parallels in the policy board on decisions that affect our infrastructure, not just a wish list perspective, but from a we have to live with those final decisions perspective. I do think that's really important. So I would be voting against adding any additional voting members. But again, it doesn't mean that those perspectives, if they're interested, do not have an avenue, right? The meetings are there, the advice is there. Certainly, you know, law enforcement, school district, transit, we're reaching out to those on project level. We're reaching out to those on planning efforts. Those perspectives are brought into all aspects of project and planning. For the DOT, I assume vast efforts are similar.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing now, we're gonna go ahead and take a vote, but I wanna make it clear exactly what you have down for the amendment to the amendment here. Do you read it back?
I don't even know what the original motion was at this point, Jerry.
The original motion was adding 4 new seats to the committee represented from North Pole Law Enforcement. Then we went to,
And the amendment Jackson has.
The amendment just takes the North Pole area law enforcement and moves that to the end. So you're adding 4 seats for law enforcement, school district, transit, people with disabilities with at least 1 from the North Pole area. So that whole Badger area. Right. North Pole and Badger area.
And they were voting members.
yes,
Okay, you comfortable?
Okay.
Okay, we're voting on amendment to amendment. Jackson, would you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Bruce,
no,
Mr. Cleaver,
No.
Mr. Krass,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
No.
Ms. Little,
No,
and Mr. Rolls.
No.
Okay, so the amendment to the amendment fails on a 2-5 vote. That brings us to the original amendment on the floor again for discussion. Okay, seeing none, would you read that back again as we have it?
All right, I can do that for you. So the main motion right now is adding 4 new seats to the committee for representatives from North Pole area law enforcement, school district, transit, and people with disabilities.
I'll withdraw my motion.
You can only do that with concurrence. A second, who is the second on that?
Leave it as Mr. Mr. Kraus.
Sure.
Okay, that motion has been withdrawn. Is there any other motions to the on the floor regarding this?
Yep.
Mr. Kraft,
Yeah, just doing the work of the WRRAC. Honoring their work here. I am gonna move the addition of the 4 seats straight up as written. As recommended by the technical committee. So ex officio non-voting, law enforcement, school district, transit, and people with disabilities. So as it came to us from the
Gotcha.
technical.
Second.
motion by Mr. Kraft, second by Mr. Hopkins, discussion on that. Taking forward what was passed on to us by the technical committee.
Yeah, I believe that, you know, The advisory committee did their due diligence, wanting the input here. The technical committee wanted to frame it as this way as ex officio members. I think having a seat at the table for them, is better than none. I would have preferred voting, but it doesn't seem like that is in the cards. So, let's go with the technical committee's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll put my 2 cents in then. I really disagree with the disabilities part. Law enforcement, I don't get that in all honesty. Why that's being added, school district transit. You know, going back to the original creation of this thing. I don't remember ever discussing that. I mean, it was pedestrian, it was bicycle, basically. But we're getting into transit. And the school district, I guess I don't have a real problem with that, but I don't, why are we putting law enforcement on there? Can any of you tell me why?
For safety, over road users. Crash rates with folks that are not in vehicles. They provide a tremendous safety perspective to the schools. When we can get them to show up. Sometimes we request the police chief to come to our meetings and explain their observations themselves, the officers. And it's very helpful to the discussion to understand fatalities and serious injuries that are occurring.
But they can always be invited, anyone can come to these meetings, they're public. And you can always invite them to their houses.
I usually have just ex officio seats. It's not gonna make or break quorum. It'll allow them to have it. It'll get them to, they'll be received notice of it. Maybe they'll wanna show up. Maybe there'll be a law enforcement officer from somewhere who loves to bike or has family that bikes and takes interest in it. It'll allow the disability community to have their, Mr. Chair, if you wanted, and wink to a nod, we can certainly make an amendment to the amendment to allow or to move that disability into a, you know, voting seat. It won't impact quorum or the ability to have the meetings. I think this is decent and good because it's what it's half of what the RAC wanted and what the technical committee recommended. So I think we should listen to them and RAC it.
Any other discussion?
I just one thought, you know, I think what Jackson said right there really kind of exactly what I was thinking here of. When we need those perspectives, we reach out, make sure we have the right people there advising us when these topics come up. And, you know, law enforcement's a great example. We don't, as Jackson said, we get them to show up. You know, now these are 4 seats that we've got to go find people. They may not be the perspective on transit for the specific issue at hand. Do we become a little complacent at making sure that we have those people at the table when we just have filled the topic, you know, in our committee? So I guess I'm inclined to leave everything alone on this one. Because I do think it's important that, 1, anyone can come to those meetings, and 2, knowing when you need additional or specialized perspectives is important. I wouldn't want to lose some of that.
Your office.
I guess oftentimes you don't know when you need that perspective, and the input from somebody when they enjoy being on these committees and giving their simple advice to an advisory committee would be beneficial. I think we should allow it to be a permanent ex officio seat for all of these people, because we don't always know when good advice will come in.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion, and that is to take the second bullet there, adding 4 new seats to the committee. Ex official seats to the committee for representatives from law enforcement, school district, transit, and people with disabilities. Jackson, maybe call it all.
Yes, Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mayor Kirsch,
No,
Ms. Little,
No,
Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Cruz.
No.
Cleaver,
No,
Mr. Olds.
No.
Okay, so that motion is failed on 5-2 vote, if I got that right? Any other action items on this committee?
Scott,
Sorry,
yeah,
Scott,
first.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when the motion that changed the name, that's just the top line name change. There's kind of some additional clarification. The scope of the committee. So I would like to move, I think they're kind of the remaining pieces, and then if folks want to take up pieces of it, they could just amend this. Everything under the vision, purpose, and roles and responsibilities section, the changes that were handed to us from the technical committee there.
Okay, for the motion, do I hear a second for that first?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Kress, second by Mr. Kaufman. So the motion is, I understand that everything under vision, purpose, roles, and responsibilities is underlined in red, and the deletions that are struck out. Yeah, so you're,
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
okay. Discussion. Lauren,
I was gonna make an opposite motion to move this back to technical. To advise us on if it should be one group or two. Essentially,
I think we'd have to
well,
wait till
you're
after.
not making a
yeah,
start here,
no, that's my discussion, it's that's kind of,
amending it to act.
no, I'll make a separate motion.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I think that if there are other forms we want to establish a new committee, we'll have to crack this open again. I think, if there are changes that we want to make down the road. But this is what these folks are working on. This has already gone through the technical committee. It's been cooking for 6 months now. And so this is the result of referring to the technical committee. So I think we should adopt this. If we don't like the direction they're taking in the future, we can adjust course. As evidenced by this in our hands, none of this is permanent. And this is an advisory committee, and this is what they see that they're working on. And we've been happy with the work that they're producing. I don't think anybody's had huge objections to the work of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee or the Technical Committee. And so we should let them continue to do their work.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're gonna go ahead and vote again on adopting all the red lettering under vision, purpose, roles, and responsibilities, and the strikeouts therein. Jackson, you call vote, please.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
No,
Ms. Little,
No,
Mayor Robbins,
Yes.
Mayor Bruce. No. Mr. Clearfield
No,
and Mr. Olds.
No.
motion fails 5-2. Any other amendments? Or anyone? Seeing none. We're going on to item new business 8A. Letter from last, EOG requesting information on MPO coordination items. Jackson,
Yes, as evidence on page 39, and I have a one-page letter to the Commissioner's Office requesting information on MPO coordination items. This is a letter that I drafted as a result of our last policy board meeting where I discussed our MPO quarterly meetings and
Sorry, Jackson, point of order, are we still on the main motion? For our previous item?
there was no main motion.
Oh, okay, I guess I was confused, so we're not going to approve this in any way, we're amending,
we're making amendments.
and so okay, and so now there's no approval of the document as a whole? It's just amendments?
You've amended that document as well, the existing document.
Is that one page on 37, 38?
Okay, so we have just made these changes and we do not now have a final vote on the new roles and responsibilities document.
Which you will get, and staff will have it next time as the original document, plus the changes we just made to it.
Okay,
So this action item was just to make amendments to this one, and then the next meeting we'll take up the final one theoretically?
No. There were 3 action items there. There were 3 items we discussed, voted them up or voted 2 down and 1 up. And that's the end of it.
So those go in, and so this is now the changes we made are now the new RAC committee, that one, when that passed.
Right.
And the meeting duration.
Yeah, so it's 2 up, 1 down. Yeah. Okay, we don't need to take an action on the overall thing. Okay,
No.
appreciate it. Sorry, Jackson.
Sorry, go ahead, Chad.
Okay.
Mr. Kraus, I had the same question you did. Thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, so we are on new business item 8A. Again, included in your packet is a 1-page letter to the Commissioner's Office requesting information on some outstanding MPO coordination items. These are topics that have been discussed at our last 2 quarterly statewide MPO coordination meetings. But I have not walked away from those meetings with adequate information to move forward with. Some or all of these items does need an official communication from the Commissioner's Office on. However, I learned yesterday in pre-policy that some of these items could potentially be addressed by DOT staff as well. So this may need to be addressed to the Commissioner's Office and a particular DOT department. But what we're looking for here, the 5 bullets in the letter, first and foremost is we need an annual distribution notice for our federal fiscal year 2026 federal funding sub-allocations for our surface transportation program, our transportation alternatives program, carbon reduction program, flexible CMAQ, and our Fairbanks Creek 2.5 non-attainment area CMAQ funds. Right now, we are working with some old estimates that are a couple of years old, but there are apportionment memos that have come out from our federal partners, and there is a federal formula that can be applied to provide us those values. We do rely on DOT providing us those numbers to put into our funding plan, so we know what our budget is or what our anticipated revenue will be. And so the only distribution notice that I've received so far for next federal fiscal years for our planning funds for operation of our office, but that's just one fund category. So we need that. Also, there were comments that were made by our technical committee and policy board on the new DOT 3C policy and procedure document that were made last year in June of 2024. That document is still being revised, but the comments from the technical committee and policy board have not yet been made to that document. We understand it is still under revision, and we'll see a new draft here in September, but we would like us to see a commitment from the Commissioner's Office that the comments from our technical committee and policy board will be resolved in that. And also, as part of the federal planning finding on STIP amendment number 2, our federal partners have recommended that all 3 MPOs be a signatory to that document to make sure that all of our edits are captured and incorporated. I'm also looking for an update on the USD DOT project prioritization pilot program. As we understand, DOT did apply for that grant and it was awarded to the state of Alaska. However, I'm hearing that funding may be frozen, so it has not been released yet from US DOT. But it would be nice to get a more official update on what's happening with that funding or when it may be released or if it's not going to be released. We are listed as partners and we provided a letter of support for that grant application. And the hope is that as the state works on their new project prioritization criteria or scoring criteria for projects, that all 3 MPOs can kind of sync up with that and we can all get kind of on the same page statewide. The 4th bullet there, this was added by the technical committee. I believe we've heard that for the STIP, there may not be another amendment coming out. DOT is going to immediately go into development of the next STIP, so the next statewide funding plan for probably 26 through 29. Or 28. 26 to 28. Okay. In any event, it would be nice to see a schedule for development of that, when that's going to start. And as we was mentioned kind of earlier on in the meeting, there will be monthly coordination meetings set up by our federal partners for all 3 MPOs, DOT, and our federal partners to be at the table to collaboratively develop that new STIP. But it'd be nice to get a schedule for our technical committee and policy board as well. And then we understand that DOT is working on initiating an update to the statewide long-range transportation plan, freight plan, rail plan, and transit plan. And we would like to see a list of engagement opportunities, not just for staff, but our technical committee and policy board. When will be the touch points as these plans are developed, that there's presentations and opportunity for input from all of our different committees and the board. So we're looking for, the project manager plans, who's working on these, if there's consultants involved, what their project schedule is. And main points of contact so that everybody understands what's coming up, because that's a lot of planning over the next year. And Fairbanks is right in the middle of the state, and so our transportation system will be part of all of those plans. And we are requesting a written response by August 15th for the letter.
Thank you. This is an action item. So first, public testimony. Is there anyone wishing to testify on this? I'll see if you want on board. Being non-public testimony is closed. Discussion. Laura,
I can answer bullets 3 and 5 for you right now. Like, project prioritization grant, we have not received a grant award. We've been notified of the successful application, but we have not received any final paperwork to actually get under grants and have funding. So at this time, what you've heard, Jackson, that of the many grants of which are likely being reevaluated, I believe this falls into that pile, and when we know more, we'll let folks know. But right now, we don't have any information. We're not under grant yet. In terms of the LRTP, the freight plan, the rail plan, and transit plan, yes, these are all planned updates. We do not have project management plans developed yet, or schedules, or consultants hired. So we're in the process of getting all that. We can certainly get fast a list of point people, Sarah Lucy for the LRTP. I don't have freight, rail, and transit off the top of my head, although Sarah Kripe is our waterways and freight planner. And then Julia Vidalson is currently the acting multimodal lead, so he would be a good starting point for anything transit related. And we're happy to get planning team from a technical or policy to present any further updates, but at this time, we don't have that information together, so we can't share it.
thank you. Other discussion? Scott?
I guess, given the context, when will that information be available? Like, when will we, I'm specifically talking about that last bullet, the MPO engagement opportunities. That piece of it, I think it would be helpful to get that information to this board so we can get that on our schedule as well.
And when we have that information, we'll absolutely be reaching out. We don't have a schedule or a management plan developed yet. So we are still in the process of soliciting for consultant support. But we don't even have RFPs on the street for the consultants that will help us with these plans.
Other discussion? Sorry. Actually, we should have a motion on the board of discussion, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I move to send a letter to Deputy Commissioner Captain Keith as written by.
Moved by Mayor Hopkins, seconded by Mr. Krass. Now, discussion on that.
I was just gonna say, I think it was brought up yesterday. In my experience, when you send something to the top person, it does distribute down to the correct department. So I think the top of the department is the right place to send it. They can figure out who needs to get back to us on it. On the different points, because here you have a couple of them.
Anyone else? More?
I would just say, is this how requests for information are gonna go for everything now? You're sort of setting a precedent that's very basic staff level information now is going by letter to a deputy commissioner, as opposed to, Jackson reaching out to myself, Judy Chapman, and saying, hey, we've got interest in these areas. It's just, they seem very odd in the context of the overall letter. I'm not gonna fall on my sword over these, but it is sort of like, well, is this just how we're gonna start communicating on these really simple things? Or as opposed to, distribution memos, those are, you guys need something formal from DOT, here's your money. Where these are sort of like, hey, we wanna know what's going on. So it just seemed different to me.
You're right.
Sorry, Mayor Cruz.
We have a committee here with members from different sects and areas. And I look at Ms. Little here from the DOT. And now we're sending a letter to the DOT requesting specific dates. And I would think to myself, we don't need to send this. We already know, we've given her the information what we want. I would think that this letter might be a little bit too harsh for just when you say, please respond by this date on these 5 items. I think we've established what we're looking at now, what we would like to have back, and we have representative from the state DOT here that we've just told that to, we've given notice. So I just don't want to send something that could get the DOT will cross with us. Simple as that.
Other discussion? Jackson, question for you on the third bullet there. Are you satisfied with that, or you still think it needs to be there?
No, I suppose it doesn't necessarily need to be there, the third bullet, because there is no update to provide at this time.
I'm gonna make an amendment here. That on the first paragraph there, that last sentence, if possible, please respond by August 15th. Say, please respond at your earliest convenience. And then to strike the third bullet. That's the motion.
I'll second that.
I appreciate that, Terry. Thank you. Ms. Little, does that make sense to you?
Is there any-
Yeah, my only one was the fifth bullet too also feels odd.
Is there any other discussion out there on the amendment? Seeing none, would you go ahead and call roll, please?
Just, I guess for point of order, was there a second to that?
Tersh.
Oh, Tersh, okay, okay, great.
I'm sorry, I made it for a second. Thank you, Jackson.
Okay, Mr. Cleaver,
Yes.
Mr. Krass,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes,
Mayor Hopkins. Yes. Mayor Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Olds.
Yes.
Yeah, passes 7-0. Now I'm lost. Is there a main motion or not?
There is a main motion.
There is a main motion. Now
The letter has just been amended.
let's vote on the main motion as amended. Go ahead and call vote, please.
Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Cleaver,
Yes.
Mr. Krass,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
yes.
and Mr. Olds.
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to 8B, new US DOT initiative, safe arterials for everyone, reliable operations and distraction. Reducing strategy. I'm sure you've all read that from front to back. We'll have a good discussion on that, Jackson.
I'll actually turn it over to Ms. Little since she has more information at her fingertips than I do on this new US DOT initiative.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. So this kind of came out of the blue for us too, but it was also a little exciting. I think, one of the things we've struggled with, arterials in particular, serve a lot of people. I think, and we sort of get, as DOT, we kind of get pulled in this tug of war between non-motorized, motorized and freight, the economy and safety and, arterials really are at the forefront of that tug of war for us. So this is sort of a challenge to, find that net that neutral position on the tug of war where we're somehow magically able to balance all the things that an arterial needs to do. By starting with identifying where we have challenges. So some key points from this, within 60 days, I request that your state DOT in coordination with the MPOs use available safety data, analysis and assessments to develop a list of arterial segments, including intersections with the highest safety, operational or compliance concerns to be addressed by the end of FY26. So of course, first question was, what do you mean by addressed? So all this is a list in 60 days of the things we want to do. A plan of what we're gonna tackle, not that we have to implement the plan. But essentially a list of locations and ideas for USDOT. The expectation is there'll be some monitoring of this, some sort of quarterly reporting to federal highways that will be reported nationally of progress, you know, towards improving safety and operations on the arterial road system. So in terms of how we're starting to tackle this, obviously we have the HSIP program, right? Pretty much what they're asking for is not reinventing the wheel. It's what we do all the time. We have the state highway safety plan. We have the HSIP program that screens all of our highways every year, all of our road network for high crash locations. So we have all of that stuff in place, and then we gotta start screening it, you know, for arterials. We also have INRIX data. Don't ask me what that stands for, but essentially it's a way of tracking delay at intersections. So we have a listing of locations where we're seeing the most vehicular delay in a given day to start looking at those operational challenges. And then compliance concerns was sort of a little bit of an odd one, but we think part of what they're getting at is some places are not strictly following the MUTCD. There's been some creative artwork type things and crosswalk artwork and stuff that is not necessarily in compliance with the MUTCD. We've, as a state, been pretty rigid on that sort of stuff, so we're not anticipating to have much in that compliance category, but certainly safety and operational, you know, we have data for that. We'll also be reaching out to the freight industry for where they see bottlenecks. We have a list of bridges that are operational, you know, structurally deficient and structural capacity are not the same thing. You could have a bridge that checks the structural sufficiency box, but may not be up to the loads, particularly in Alaska with the big heavy hauls that we see for like modules moving more slow, that may be limiting our freight capabilities. So that's the data sources that we have today that we're bringing into the conversation and the development of this list. But we know the MPOs do a lot of local planning and may have better data for operational challenges for transit, non-motorized. Some of those user groups that you guys interact a little more directly in our a more concentrated user group in these MPO boundaries than they might be for the broader transportation network. And so I think our ask of this group is, you know, one, how do you guys see yourselves engaged in this process? Obviously, at some point we'll have a list, you know, to share. But beyond that, you know, what data might FAST be able to bring to the table in terms of supporting us identifying those safety, operational compliance areas on our arterial network?
Thank you. Any questions? Some more paperwork for you.
Demand more money. There have been no promises yet, but fingers crossed. 100% federal share money.
Okay, that brings us to informational items, offsets and obligations. Chad?
Yeah, shown on page 43, we're only at 59% obligation for the federal fiscal year, which again is behind schedule for a normal year for us. However, tip amendment number 1 just got approved, as well as tip administrative modification number 6. So all of our documents are in order to finish out obligations. And there's about 2 weeks left for DOT to turn those all in to our federal partners. So hoping that the second round of the FAST Improvement Program, the additional $1 million gets out to bid here. Of course, it won't be constructed until next summer, but that's a big chunk of this funding. But there's a lot of obligations still to occur. And so we'll see where we're at next month. And if any obligations don't occur, the hope is that we can carry those funds forward to the next year. As far as offsets, page 45, we're sitting on about $250,000 in offsets available that we need to use by the end of the federal fiscal year. I've been in communication with the DOT project manager on Powell Street, and they do have a pretty sizable change order coming up for additional traffic control out there. So the majority of this money, if not all, that will likely end up going to Powell Street. And so I hope to zero that out within the next month. So just waiting on a change order across my desk. And that concludes my report.
Any questions? Thank you, Jackson. Policy board comments. We'll start with Mr. Olds online. Is he not, it's not there
Nope.
anymore.
No, I'm still here, just no comments.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. No words of wisdom for us?
No, not today.
And Mayor Hopkinson.
Two things, few conversations with, Mr. Kraft, but, we are moving forward with our legislative priorities at the borough, for the next legislative session, and one thing that we had discussed was mirroring, the support for the, I'm gonna get it wrong, Roads and Highways Advisory Board. Did we, as stated in our letter that we sent at the last meeting, we are that's the only type of advisory board that's not in statute. And I think it'd be good to put that in there to make sure it's maintained in the future, to go along with the other two. And so we might be putting forward that as a legislative priority. And I think it'd be a decent discussion as the other two municipalities on the board, so we could all move forward in one. We all voted yes in favor of it at the last meeting. It'd be good if all three municipalities raise our voices in unison to make sure that voice is put into statute going forward. So our vote, I want to say, is the 7th of August, at least that's when we're supposed to come forward with our first round of amendments to the legislative priorities. So I'll keep you guys abreast, but I think it'd be good to have one unified voice from the interior on some priorities that we can share when we go down to Juneau. You know, we did a bit of the work on the bicycle pedestrian committee, but I want to thank them for the work that they do in general. I've heard of it plenty. I see the maps all around town and the improvement in bike and pedestrian and all sorts of accessibility. So I just want to thank the staff for their work on it and all the committee members. If you can pass that along, we appreciate their work, and I think it's good for this community to have multi-modes. It can be difficult living in this community without a car, and making sure that there's good voices is important. So please pass that along.
Thank you, Mayor Bruce.
No comments.
It's little.
Just a couple things I want to mention. You know, I think it was last policy board, maybe it's been two that we voted to kind of segment the fast service improvements. That was wise. We've got bid award recommendations sitting with contracts for the first piece. So that's gonna move forward. Maybe have a chance at construction this year, which was our goal. Second piece should be turned into contracts here this week for that final obligation and forward. So good work to John's team on that. I did also want to clarify that MVP does publicly notice their, they may not strictly follow Open Meetings Act, but they do publicly notice their meetings. So that was a misstatement earlier. And I'll just echo what Mayor Hopkins said about, yes, this is a tough town if you don't have a car, and we do appreciate particularly fast, it's really connected to those user groups and does a great job of bringing their voice forward. So thank you to Olivia, Lori Jackson, those formerly.
I've been called
We did a
feedback,
wrap.
yeah, the
Rack. In the rack.
I made my comment.
Got a comment.
No. Yes, go ahead.
Mayor Church. I don't look at you as a representative of the city of North Pole. I look at you as a representative of 99705. I thought you did a very good job for that today.
Sure, 99710 as well. Or is that a post office?
703, 704, 705, I also know whole salt trip.
Just speaking of Mayor Church, Richard.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Travis Nybert for calling in today. It's great to get a view that's outside of our normal group, and I always appreciate when people call in and give their true feelings on actions that we take. It's important that we listen to those and make moves on those. Thank you for bringing up the legislative priorities that you're dealing with. I'd like to be on the email list when you send that out and get together with all three of us to move that forward in an action that makes sense.
We do it in a whole, like, the assembly brings up and votes on it, so. I'll bring it up here when we do it, then I think you guys can mirror it if you can, and if the city's interested as well.
That's perfect. Thank you for the group. Thank you for all the work on the rack. It is super important, and I very much am looking forward to taking the flyers out to North Pole and distributing those throughout the next year. So thank you for putting those together.
Mr. Kress.
Thank you. Yeah, extend my thanks to Mr. Nyberg. He also runs leads my office bike gang, so. They're out there quite often, rolling around. So, and I'd like to express my thanks to the RAC, and all the committee members there. It can be really difficult when you work on something for such an extended period of time to have your work kind of shut down. So I imagine, they may feel unappreciated, and I hope they know that we truly do appreciate the work and the spirit volunteers that they bring forward.
Thank you. No good comments. I just won't add anything to that. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Here, Bruce, seconded.
Second.
Second by Ms. Goodwin. Is there any objection to that? And adjourned at 2:15.
Yeah, no, they got it.